Ioannis, I give you the floor for an overview.
Thank you, Samuel. We pass to the next slide, introduction, the scope of our 6GPATH project. This includes an overview of the aspects that will be covered in the next slides, and we pass directly to our content. Next slide, please. So regarding, first of all, the global state of the 5G deployment worldwide, we have a new era where many applications affecting a variety of vertical sectors are fully deploying due to the innovative features proposed by 5G, like high data rate, reliability, low latency, and so on. So this practically supports productivity and deployment. We can say that 5G can be an enabler for new applications, and this can be seen as a sort of accelerator for the digitalization of economy and society. However, we do not remain on 5G. We still have checked opportunities for what we call beyond 5G, with the aim of focusing 6G in order to further boost the development activities. And what is important to keep in mind is that all these actions practically correlate and affect vertical sectors like health, automotive applications and transportation, education, media, public safety, some cities, and much more. So this is the framework of 5G. We pass to the next slide, which is the view towards further actions towards 6G. Currently, the IMT 2030 has released several objectives about how 6G is expected to delineate opportunities for further development. What we can mention is that we will have a new era with distribution and creation of zettabytes of digital information, activities via evolved use cases and applications that will support societal needs and will create value. Deep involvement of artificial intelligence as a supporter and enabler of all such applications, and extended wireless connectivity. So in this framework, the new 6G architecture, which is a challenge actually, has to be flexible and efficient to enable easy integration of everything, and also encompass AI-powered enablers with computed capabilities. Evidently, artificial intelligence and machine learning will help in this evolutionary progress to maintain operation cost effectiveness, achieve zero-touch approaches, and enhance the level of decision-making processes. Next slide. This, following the previous context, just correlates the evolution towards beyond 5G with the market sector. We expect that in order for these developments and new applications via dedicated use cases to be valid for the market, it is essential to have appropriate trial environments so that those applications may be checked and finally aim to be considered as 5G or beyond 5G ready. So all these use cases must be tested in appropriate locations using appropriate facilities, so that to ensure that the launching of related applications will support business innovation. And of course, it is necessary to identify appropriate KPIs for evaluating these applications, correlating to use cases, and following to these related key value indicators, so that to pass from research to real environments. So this is the introductory framework. We pass to the next slide where our project comes. This is an overview of our project. We have 26 partners from 13 European countries. We start with 10 use cases and 7 initial test beds and pilot. You can see here the composition of our consortium. We have 5 industry partners, 8 academic and research partners, and 12 SMEs and 1 non-governmental organization, in order to cover widely the verticals I mentioned before. And we pass to the next slide, where here we can see the challenge and the way how the challenge is to be faced by via long introduction. There is an identified path towards 6G because more is requested by the market in terms of performance by the industry and the technical providers, and our demands for higher throughput, still lower latency, more efficient communication. So based on the deployment that has been supported by 5G, actually, we are facing challenges in order to go a step further or more step further. And so here comes our project to support development and integration of new tools and products from European companies in this beyond 5G framework, facing finally what we will call in some years as 6G evolution via measuring related KPIs and KVIs. We have 4 key verticals: health, education, smart cities, and farming. 7 test beds initially that will be used for the evaluation of the initial 10 use cases. And we have predicted for financial support to third parties via 2 phases of open calls in order to include and approve 2 new pilot sites, 2 new test beds, 10 additional technological flavors that will enhance our platform, and finally, an extra set of 30 new use cases. And all these will take place in collaboration with knowledge and experiences gained from other SNS, in particular Stream B and Stream C projects. Next slide, please. This actually depicts what I mentioned before. We have our core project activities. And as you can see, we expect to correlate what we will realize in our initial and final stages by existing beyond 5G and developing 6G technologies. We have the open calls. We have commercial solutions and experiences gained from previous European projects. And we expect that via our 10 use cases, the initial ones, plus the extra 30 use cases, we will be able to support the expected transition mainly via promoting KPIs and KVIs for the initial verticals we have selected. Next one, please. Next slide.
Sorry, a little bit of an issue. There we go.
Okay, this practically, in brief, summarizes our expected goals. As I mentioned, we expect to integrate and operate a large set of 7 plus 2, 9 test beds and pilot site that will go beyond 5G and will follow related 3GPP works in the scope of further releases. Then to use these test beds as a common infrastructure for the integration and innovation of beyond 5G technologies, offer via our project an experimentation platform that will support the evaluation of these demanding use cases and mainly integrate, demonstrate, and evaluate a wide range of use cases. We start with 10 use cases, and next year we will have 30 more use cases that will be included in the scope via our open call 2. Next one, please. Continuing our discussion about our goals, we expect to perform a validation of related innovations and in parallel evaluate related business models so that to demonstrate that what we propose as a novelty regarding the technical point of view will also be an opportunity for the market sector to create new income and opportunities for further development. So in our 6GPATH, actually, we will have a dedicated infrastructure where all proposed architectures and capabilities will come together and will become available to realize large-scale pilot and trials. Next one, please. This summarizes somehow what I mentioned before. We have the initial use cases, the open calls aiming to include 2 extra test bed, 3rd test bed extension, and next year 30 additional use cases, our test beds, and the third-party inclusion. More details will come in the technical presentation that will follow. Next one, please. Just to summarize, for the strategic point of view, we expect via our activities to contribute to further refinement of end-to-end 5G advanced and 6G test infrastructures, validate the infrastructure core technologies and related architectures correlated to vertical large-scale pilots, validate core technologies and architectures in the value chain, so emphasizing on the commercial point of view, promote viable business models for inclusion of those use cases in the real market sector, support contributions that we will promote via the trials to international standardization bodies so that to support and enhance the evolution towards 6G. Next one, please. We aim to support the creation of European 5G advanced and 6G know-how showcasing, stimulate large industrial stakeholders, SMEs, and the European academic and research community so that to create links for further collaborative works. We will develop appropriate repositories where we will include information coming from the trials. And we expect that we will innovate several options, mainly originating from the inclusion of artificial intelligence in the selected use cases so that to create interactive links with other European projects. And the final slide of my presentation, in a broader view, we will support the key strategic impact of the Horizon Europe via initiative via promoting opportunities for wider European development. We will bring new actors from and beyond the verticals in a collaborating framework. We will support the European standardization framework, interactivities and alliances with vertical and industrial sectors, and support the policy promoted by the European Commission aiming to position the European sector as a lead market in the beyond 5G deployment. So this was my presentation regarding the scope and the strategic view and the aims of the project, what we expect to realize. In order to understand in more details our views, I will pass the stage to the technical coordinator, Juan Sos from Portugal, that will give more details about how we practically aim to realize these actions. Thank you again for your patience.
Thank you very much, Ioannis, for the project overview, which I think is always important to frame the proposals that we receive in this open call. So as Ioannis mentioned, we'll now continue with the technical overview and the platform overview, starting with this more technical aspect. João, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes. Hello, good morning. I'm João Fernandes from OneSource, and I'll be very brief with this technical overview because most of the details have already been mentioned in the previous webinar, and you can find it in the 6GPATH website. So next. So one of the main objectives of the 6GPATH, as Ioannis mentioned, is to build an unified platform for use case partners to configure, schedule, execute, and analyze experiments, abstracting test bed operations, via middleware, and backend tools. This platform is divided in a few main layers. At the top, you have the pilots and use cases that represent entities responsible for defining service composition, scheduling experiments, and analyzing collected metrics. Open call experiments are also included here. Then we go into the northbound APIs, which is the layer that enables programmability, flexibility, intelligence, and security for the applications, promoting the interoperability via open source standards. Then in the main 6GPath platform layer, you have the portal, which is the primary interface for the use case owners to plan, execute, and monitor the experiments. And the key components include an experiment schedule, AAA, KPI and KVI dashboards, and an experiment repository. Then for the backend layer, it manages the test beds through southbound APIs with components like infrastructure managers, monitoring, AI as a service, and slice managers. Then we go into the southbound API layer, which is a middleware that standardizes backend operations for testbed communications, regardless of specific infrastructure differences. And at the bottom, we have the testbed layer with multiple testbeds across different locations to support the experimentation with potential for expansion through these open calls. This will be explained in more detail by our colleague Almudena from the University of Malaga. But for the new testbeds from Tarakay, they are expected to integrate this platform in their testbeds, and for the extensions to be integrated in the existing testbeds of 6GPath platform, they also have to integrate their technologies and components with the platform. So next. Here you have a brief overview of the four verticals of the 6GPath project. We are focusing on smart cities, education, health, and farming, and we have 10 use cases spread across these verticals. All of these verticals and use cases are focusing on enabling and improving and developing new technologies, focused on 6G innovations and validation, such as slicing, security as a service, TSN, XR applications and components, etc. So we can go on to the next one. Here you can see the map of the testbeds where these 10 use cases will be deployed, or they are being deployed and will be run for the pilots. We have 7 of them distributed between 7 countries, so Portugal, Spain, UK, Germany, Sweden, Romania, and Greece. Next. Here you have a very brief overview of some of the main technologies that each testbed is focusing on. So like I mentioned previously, you have TSN, you have end-to-end control, you have run upgrades, native AI, etc. So these are some of the main things that testbeds are focusing on, and also some of the things that possibly could be improved by the testbed extensions. Which comes to the next slide. So in a very generic way, the main extensions that the project is looking for is for these advanced experimentation features. These include security as a service, slice manager tools and applications, AI as a service, closed loop coordinators, policy enforcers, etc. Then each testbed has more specific objectives and expectations from these open calls, which I'll be going through very briefly in the next slide. So, for the IT and Altis Labs testbed, they will be running 2 use cases for smart cities, which is the connected and sensing city and the security coordination. Here you can see a brief overview of the relevant technologies provided by the testbed. And then we go to the important part, which is the desired extensions for this testbed. So they are looking into predictive analytics for city services and automated detection of anomalies to enhance their network slicing and intelligent steering across the smart city networks, new sensors, AR and digital twins for safety and tourism, and also enhanced V2X services for autonomous mobility. So going into the next one. We have the OTE testbed, where the use case automated logistics from smart cities will be running. And for this testbed, they are mostly focusing on slice automation. They already provide slice mechanisms, but they do not have slicing automation. And they are looking into mechanisms and applications and software to automate these slicing processes via real-time network performance measurements. Next. For the oral testbed, they will be running the XR rural schools use case for education. they are not looking into necessarily testbed extensions, but more extensions to the OAuth platform, which is called Digital Yada, which is the main platform that will be used for the use case. It's basically an XR learning platform that they are developing, and they are looking for extensions such as new capabilities and development of XR content and UEs management, and also the integration of these tools into the Digital Yada platform. Next. For the AWS testbed, they are running the platform of the future, also in education, and the tools that they are looking for are AI as a service and new XR devices to integrate with the use case. And next. For the K11 testbed, also in the education vertical, they will be running the XR health training. And for this testbed, they are looking into measurement tools for quality of service, new optic devices that are 5G integrated, and also softwares or tools or devices, also 5G enabled to integrate with use case and the testbed, plus software tools for AI as a service, security as a service, positioning of users and devices such as JCAS, and also solutions to enhance terrestrial and or satellite connectivity. Next. For the focus testbed, they are running the two use cases in the health vertical, and they are looking into security as a service and also traffic influence features. And lastly, next, we have the University of Malaga testbed, which are running the two use cases in the farming vertical, and they are looking into view radio extensions, non-terrestrial network extensions, 5G enabled agricultural solutions, and new UVs and devices such as AGVs, drones, robotic arms that then would be integrated with this use case. And lastly, image recognition solutions for the farming verticals mostly. So this concludes my brief presentation, and we can go into the more technical side of the platform with Almudena.
Thank you, João. As you mentioned, Almudena will continue with the 6GPATH platform. The floor is yours, Almudena.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll jump to the next slide.
Yes, please go to the next slide. Okay. So for the new testbed coming from the open calls, it is mandatory to integrate the 6GPATH framework, that is a framework for supporting experimentation. So the 6GPATH framework provides a control plane for the experiment, also the possibility to configure the scenarios for the experimentation, and also it enables the taking and aggregation of the measurements collected across all the different sources of measurements that are available in the testbed. So the minimum integration, so the minimum integration required from all the testbed is to support the last feature is to support the aggregation of the measurements and the tagging with the right ID, the measurements related with the same experiment. You can see here a figure of the first release of the 6GPATH framework. So this is currently available, the blocks that are highlighted in red. So this is the initial version of the 6GPATH framework. And for the final release, we will have all the boxes in purple that should be deployed in all the testbeds. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so I forgot this is the biggest picture of the current version of the 6GPATH framework. So this is all these red block are currently available and should be deployed and integrated in all the testbeds. So please, can you go to the next slide? All these components are open source and are available in these two links. So you have the LCM, that is the engine for the ordination of the experiment, and the LCM portal, that is the user interface that offers the LCM for the experimenter. So all the documentation, as you can see here, all the documentation regarding the requirements for the deployments and the instructions for the deployments are already available in the GitLab. So all the testbed operator should be able to access and to deploy. Of course, we will provide the support when you have problems with the deployments. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this is the LCM portal. So the 6GPATH framework is oriented towards the execution of test cases. So for each experimenter, they will have a list of test cases that are based on templates that are offered as part of the ELCM, the 6GPATH framework.
I think there's a small technical issue with Almudena. See if we recover her. Okay, I think for sake of keeping the flow of the presentation, we'll advance. We had a couple of additional slides. Maybe we'll be able to come back to them further down the presentation. Anyways, this part of the presentation was just to provide a bit more context of what you'll be required to also keep in mind as part of the development of your applications, particularly in the framework of track A and track B. Okay, so on that note, let me jump a few slides and I will be happy to continue this session with the actual open call, some of the rules, requirements, things that you should keep in mind. Okay, so everything that you've seen before was very important from the perspective of knowing, as I just mentioned, what you will have to keep in mind. What are we expecting from track A in terms of a new pilot or test beds, and track B, which will be extensions of the existing test beds that we have. Okay. So what I will try to briefly cover in the time that we have is exactly what are the different objectives, differences in track A and track B, the timeline, funding scheme, how you can participate, two very important things, which are the feasibility form and the application form, okay, different processes, and then we'll go into the evaluation and the implementation. Okay, so as we've already seen, and this image has come up more than once, there are two main objectives for the 6GPATH open call, okay? And keep in mind that there will be another open call further down the road with different objectives, but focusing on what we have today, we have as a primary objective, number one, to integrate 2 new test beds into, let's say, the current project framework that we have, which will be able to accept new services, new use cases that will come out of a second open call that we will have. Okay, you'll have to use the different technology, the framework that we've just gone through. And then we have a second objective, which is the development of 10 extensions associated with the 7 test beds that João previously mentioned before. Okay, so how do these basically distinguish? We have track A, which is for infrastructure deployment. We will be funding 2 applications, okay? In terms of the targets, any entity with a capacity to set up this type of infrastructure that already has the infrastructure in place and that is willing to see, new kind of solutions, test the infrastructure that you have to validate what you have as well. We will be funding 2 projects, but with a significant amount of budget, so 300,000 euros per project. Track B is infrastructure software extensions. We'll be funding 10 projects. Okay, and then what we will be expecting you to do is to integrate new activities, develop different, showcase other ideas with the capacity that the 7 test beds already have. Okay, it's important that you go through the technical documentation that we have available on our website to go through this presentation again, if relevant, which will be made available on our website again, to know exactly what each of the test beds offer, what the platform offers as well. In terms of the target, any entity that has the capacity to integrate any types of solution within the test beds that we have. Okay, so it's not specific to SMEs or startups, with the caveat that if you're applying as a consortium, you will have to integrate an SME as part of that process. Okay, these are smaller projects with 60,000 euros per project. So 600,000 in the first track, 2 projects being funded. We have 10 projects, an additional 600,000 in the track B, for a total of 1.2 million euros being available for this first open call. In terms of the timeline, briefly, just to let you know that we have the launch of the open call happened on the 23rd of September, and we will be closing on the 21st of November. So it is important for me to mention at this moment that the 21st of November is the deadline for full submissions, but there is a cutoff date already on the 6th of November, which is associated with the feasibility assessment, which we'll get to in just a second. Then evaluation will start, not necessarily on the 1st of November, but it will start just after the open call closes up until the end of December. And then the projects will start later in 2020, at the beginning of 2025. So this is just an overview of what the timeline looks like. You will see that there is, once we start the projects, there's a first design period, a testing period, and then a support period. You will see that these are quite extensive, only because it is part of the process, part of the open call that part of the project that you will be implementing to provide support to the 30 projects that we will fund in the second open call, that will eventually integrate their activities as part of the infrastructure, as part of the activities that you develop in as part of this open call to which you are applying to. Okay. So as I mentioned, 1.2 million euros is available. Keep in mind an important issue of double funding. We know that there's already activities that you might be involved in other types of grants. Whatever you submit should be novel ideas, something that you're not already working on for the sake of double funding. You can apply as an individual organization or entity, but if you apply as a consortium, as I mentioned, it has to, there's a maximum of 2 entities, of which one must be an SME. You can apply to either open call, whatever you think makes more sense given the type of work that you do, but we'll only be funding 1 project from your entity, okay? How to participate in this open call, a 2-step process, okay? First, there will be a feasibility assessment, which, again, let me emphasize, the deadline for this is already on the 6th of November, so just about a week from today. The feasibility assessment is just the first evaluation that the 6GPATH project partners will make in regard to your proposal. We will look at it and see if what you're submitting makes sense within the framework of the track A, or if you're applying to a specific use case in track B, we will see if there's a solid fit. Okay. Any proposal that is submitted to the full proposal that has not gone through the feasibility assessment will not be eligible to participate. Okay, this is something very important that you have to keep in mind. When submitting a feasibility assessment, even if we mark it as not feasible, this does not mean that you're disqualified. It means that there are improvements that you should be making, things that you should be considering, and you can still proceed to the full proposal. Okay, this is just a very important intermediate step for us to give you some kind of feedback on, let's say, the vision of your proposal and what you're trying to develop and submit as part of your activities in the 6GPATH project. Things to keep in mind also about the English language. It's the only language we're using in the full process of this open call. And there are separate templates for the feasibility assessment and the full proposal, which you are required to use. This is just a quick overview of what we're looking for, or what you will see when you apply firstly to the feasibility assessment. Okay, these are separate, let's say, application pages. The links are available and easily identifiable. In terms of the feasibility assessment, this is a screenshot to the right of what the feasibility form will look like. You fill in information, you upload your technical proposal for the feasibility, and then submit, and then we will take care of the rest in terms of evaluation. How does that look like? This is just a quick overview of what the template will look like. How does that look like? Basically, we receive your proposal, your feasibility assessment proposal. Okay, we have 8 working days to give you feedback. You will receive a result as feasible or not feasible. As I just mentioned, not being feasible does not mean you're excluded. It means here's some feedback. Keep this in mind. Try to fix this or that, and then you can continue with your full proposal, which will then be evaluated by external experts in these areas. Okay. So again, this the figure, the box on the bottom, just emphasizes the importance of the first deadline that is coming up already next week. So there's still time. No need to. It's Halloween, but no need to be afraid. There's still time, plenty of time to submit a proposal. So once you have your feasibility assessment done, once you've received feedback from the 6GPATH team, okay, then you can continue to this full 6GPATH application form, the open call one. It's a more extensive template and form as well. You indicate exactly what the tracks you're applying to, some additional administrative and proposal information. And then the deadline for this is the 21st of November by 5 p.m. Central European time, Brussels time. The template, again, is a bit more extensive, touches upon technology concept, impact innovation potential, the implementation process, and the team skills and experience. Okay, so this is everything that will be evaluated in this case, as I just mentioned, by external experts. It's not done internally by the consortium. Okay, keep in mind, I want to emphasize this again. I know I'm being a bit repetitive, but it's always important that the full proposal will only be considered for evaluation if you have submitted the feasibility assessment form. Okay, this is a somewhat novel process. It's important to emphasize so that you don't, that you're not caught by surprise with an evaluation report that mentions this aspect. Okay, mandatory to submit Annex 2.2, which is a technical proposal, which you just saw before. Keep in mind that there are page limits, so be concise, be objective in the information that you provide as well. So how does this look in terms of the overall evaluation process? Regardless if you're applying to track A or track B, you submit through the F6S platform your first feasibility check. We will make that assessment and provide you feedback within 8 working days. Once you go into the full proposal, we will do first an eligibility check. If you're the type of entity that is eligible to apply, if you come from an eligible country, all this information is clearly defined in the guidelines for applicants. It is important that you look through them and read through that thoroughly and carefully. If you're eligible, you will move on to the remote evaluation. 2 external experts will be doing that evaluation. If needed, interviews will be conducted. And then there's a consensus meeting where we look at all the proposals and make the final, let's say, evaluation and definition of the scores. If you're not eligible, you receive a rejection letter. If you move on after the consensus meeting is done, there's a selection phase of the top ranked proposals. Again, 2 for track A and for track B. And then we move on to the sub-grant agreement signature. So this is a process that will lead up until the end of January, including the contracting. And then in February, we start the phase 1 of both track A and track B projects. In terms of evaluation process, as I've been briefly mentioning just before, there's the eligibility check where we look at if you're the type of eligible legal entity that we're looking for. If in case you're applying as a consortium and an SME is a mandatory inclusion, we will see if the SME is in fact they say they are. We'll see alignment with the domain. We will look at other required information documentation, that everything provided is in English, that the templates provided are accurate, and as well as the financial information. So we've been receiving some requests, some questions through our, let's say, the open call email questioning about the financials. Okay, this is also provided in detail in the guidelines for applicants. The main thing to keep in mind is that you keep within the maximum budget of 300,000 for track A, or 60,000 for track B. Then you provide a very well-described rationale of the budget allocated to human resources, to equipment, to other consumables, etc. Okay, that will be done. It's an assessment done by external experts. We are not in a position to provide guidance on where and how you should allocate your budget. That will be something that the external experts will be evaluating. In terms of the remote evaluation, the criteria that we will be looking for are very much aligned with the items included in the template that you will be using, excuse me. In terms of technology concept, we'll be looking at the experts, we'll be looking at the objectives, the novelty, a little bit about the work plan, the innovation, how you're aligned with 6GPATH. In terms of impact, the relevance of your solution, the market potential, any commercialization opportunities. In terms of implementation, in fact, the work plan here in detail, KPIs, barriers and risks, costs as well have to be described, as I just mentioned, milestones, and then team skills and experience. Okay, what do you bring to the table? What background do you have? Technical capacity, the roles, eventual complementarity between the two applicants, between the consortium partners if you're applying as a consortium. Coming to an end briefly. So this is just a very quick overview of how things work if you're eventually invited to participate in the program. Okay, so after the contracting phase, which takes approximately 1 or 2 months, then we start in February with the 3 phases. We have specification and design, implementation and testing, and then support and evaluation. Okay, this is a lump sum project, type project, so we pay you against the delivery of results. And that's why below there are specific reports that have to be submitted, which will lead to the payment of 20% associated to the first phase, 30% associated to the second phase, and then 50% after the completion of the project. So just some final tips when preparing a proposal, which I've to some extent already mentioned briefly throughout my intervention. Very important to download and read carefully all the documentation, even this presentation from today, which will be made available on the website. It will be sent to you by email as well, so you can look into a bit more detail about everything technical related. Read it carefully. It has a lot of information for you to digest that will help you frame the proposal that we hope you submit to the open call. The platform automatically saves the information as you're inputting it. Okay, it's now, let's say, automatic save mode. But why not consider preparing a text before, doing that information and then putting everything into the document, into the platform after. Be clear and specific. Okay, there's a page limit of 12 pages. Okay, that's not too much to detail a big project. So it's important that you're objective in what you include. And as I've been mentioning more than once, and I will do it for the last time, although the open call is open for 2 months, there is a first deadline already for the 6th of November for the feasibility assessment. That means that after the 6th of November, only those that have submitted a feasibility form will be, let's say, open or can continue and make use of the next 2 weeks before the 21st of September. So anyone here, your first intermediate cutoff date, let's say, is already 6th of November. Please keep that in mind. This webinar plus the one from before will be available for you to look at and look for more information. A couple of links that are important for you to keep in mind, where you can submit the feasibility assessment, the proposal, the frequently asked questions, how to contact the F6S support, and any other support that you need. You can reach out to us at opencall@6gpath.eu. Okay, so that is in a nutshell my presentation about the open call. We will have still some time for Q&A. I know that João has been answering some questions in the chat as they've come in, but if there's anything else that you'd like to ask, now is the time to do it. So you can either write them down in the chat, or if you raise your hand, I think that's also an option. You can do that, and we'll try to open the floor for you to make that question. So I think there is someone who's raised their hand? Give me a second so that I can find you. Working with two screens isn't always easy. Where have I seen a hand raised? Maybe it's already been lowered. Okay, I don't see any hand being raised.
Also, I'm available again. I don't know if maybe I can
Yes.
continue or
Yes, let's do that, Almudena. Thank you. So while people are eventually thinking of some of their questions, let's quickly go back to Almudena's presentation. I think you were here when we lost you. So feel free to continue, Almudena.
Okay, so as I said before, sorry for some problems. So there is a list of test cases per each experimenter, and these test cases can be edited by the experimenter, and they are based on templates that are offered by the LCM, and so the experimenter can learn how to configure it and how to use it without need to develop from scratch these new test cases. Okay, can you do the next slides? Okay, so this is an example. For example, this is just a very simple test case that's enabled to, as you can see, there is a task. The test cases are integrated by tasks. So there is a task that enables you to execute some click command. So in this case, you are using the p-link. You can start a SSH connection to a remote machine, and you can start anything you need. For example, the service under test. In this case, as a demonstration, we are just starting a ping in this machine. So when we finish the ping, we have a new task. The task is the name is CSV2 influx. So we retrieve from the initial the machine that where we are running the ping, we retrieve a file with the measurements, and in this new task we inject the measurements into the InfluxDB with an execution ID, that this is the identifier of the experiment. So when you finish the experiment, you will have the measurements stored in the InfluxDB, and also you will have you can define in this case the panels that you will see in the dashboard, in the Grafana dashboard. Please, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so there is a list of tasks that you can use. All these tasks are available in the documentation, in the links that you can see in the slides. So we have a task for connecting with Prometheus, with Kafka, with MQTT. So we have support different tools, and we support, for example, to send some commands to REST API. So we have developed a list of tasks that are useful for running the experiment, to connect to the service under test, to run some actions. So all these tasks are documented, and you can see in the right, you can see the description of the task, and in the left and in the right you can see an example of how to configure the task. So we provide all the support so the experimenter can configure this task and can adapt the test cases to their requirements. Okay, can you go to the next slide? So in the case that the experimenter or the testbed operator or device manufacturer need a specific task for communicating with some component of the test bed, of a new component, it is possible also to develop a new task. So we also provide this functionality and provide the support in the, as you can see in the slides. We have a section in the GitLab on how you can implement new tasks for adding components into the 6GPATH framework. Wait, can you go to the next slide? I think this is the last one. Okay. So if you have new components in the testbed that we don't support, for example, we have Prometheus, Kafka, we can inject a CSV file. We support different sources of measurements that can be aggregated. But if you have a new one, you need to provide the task to integrate the new technology that you provide in the protocol to integrate this new technology into the 6GPATH framework. And it's very easy. All the configuration, all the instructions are available, and we can also provide the support for implementing this task. Okay, can you go to the next slide?
I think that was the last one.
Is the last one? Okay,
Yeah.
so this is the last one. So thank you. If you have
Thank
any
you,
questions regarding the technical details.
Yeah, so go back to this one here. So in the meantime, I haven't seen any other hands raised, and questions that we received in the Q&A panel have already been addressed by João. So while I'll give you a few more seconds to think of anything else, let me wrap up, at least in terms of slides, what this open call is in a nutshell. Okay, we have track A that focuses on infrastructure deployment, up to 300,000 euros equity free for 2 projects. Okay, open to individual organizations or entities, or a consortium of 2 entities. Keep in mind that if you're applying as a consortium, you must include 1 SME. And then we have infrastructure software extensions or infrastructure extensions, hardware or software. Smaller projects of up to 60,000 euros, we will be funding 10. Same type of conditions in terms of who can apply. It's not mentioned here, but has to be from an eligible Horizon Europe from an eligible country as defined in the Horizon Europe framework. What do you get from us, which we didn't address in too much detail, but not only will you, not only will we expect you to kind of contribute and develop the project that you're submitting through the open call, but there is also support from our end to you, in addition to the equity-free funding, which is of course very important. You will also have business and technical support. Okay, we will have specific people within the project that will provide you, with the support that you need in terms of everything that Almudena just mentioned. Of course, if you're working with a particular test bed, then there will be a person allocated to help you along the way. And then naturally, visibility and promotion. Not only do we benefit from having you involved in the project, you can benefit from us, whether you're a research organization, whether you're a company. There's a mutual opportunity for visibility and promotion, which we will definitely work together on. Okay, so that is, let's say, the last slide that we have. As I do not see any further questions, I will wrap up by leaving this slide on the screen, so you can find more information about the open call on our project website. The feasibility form and the full proposal form, the links are here. Frequently asked questions available on F6S as well, the project website. There's a discussion forum support. And if you have any questions, you can use our open call at 6gpath.eu. That being said, we thank you for having joined today. We hope that this has provided you enough information that you'll, as soon as you drop this webinar, open up the feasibility assessment form and start filling in your information. Again, last time, the deadline is the 6th of November for that first submission. So you still have a week to get that submitted to us. We wish you the best of luck. We thank you on behalf of all the 6GPATH team. We wish you the rest of a lovely day and a good weekend ahead. Thank you for being with us today, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.